I would like to welcome Mr. Sjarel X in our next episode of Bastia Conversations, a series of dialogues with people from arts and culture about slowing down in nature and contemplating the future in the aftermath of the first global pandemic. Sjarel X was the director of Centraal Museum Utrecht before becoming the director of Museum Boijmans van Beuningen in 2004. The Boijmans Museum is now undergoing an unprecedented bold renovation and a contemporary architectural addition that will certainly attract crowds. It is listed among the most important and active institutions in the cultural field in the Netherlands and Europe. Welcome.
Thank you.
My first question is, the lockdown, quarantine, lasted almost 3 months. Did it affect your private life and your work as the director? Has this involuntarily recluse been a blessing or a curse? And I'm interested in your personal testimony.
Oh yes, it has been very impressive and influential, both. What I noticed in the Netherlands is that all discussions that we had about what was happening went into political deliberations within 2 or 3 weeks. And so it was as if this pandemic was kidnapped by people who had to frame it in a political way. I thought it was disturbing. What I liked about it myself was that this corona period became a kind of contemplation for me. I went home, I looked to my wonderful staff in 2 dimensions. They talk. You can say hello and you can say goodbye. That goes very quickly. It's very efficient. No, but not to make a joke of it. I think that this madness about rushing and doing many things at the same time and losing so much concentration because things are busy and have to be done in a hurry. I think that we were without noticing in a period of exaggeration, and that could be on all fields, on all fronts. And I really like that we now had an experience that gave a kind of basic feeling towards what is of value, what would you like to do, what do you miss, what is really important. And that is, I think, a great experience.
Did you feel in any way more limited in your work, or this was just another channel in that sense?
My work is beyond limits and limited at all sides.
Okay.
And so you always think about what is limited.
Okay.
And how to escape from that.
Were you able to get things done the same way as before?
No, because the medium, the way you talk, the way you behave, is very one-dimensional. So you can talk to people, but having a real conversation, having contact, looking into a face, knowing what happens, you all miss that. So in my job, to talk is very important, and the way you talk is very influential on what your goal, what you would like to do, and
in respect to this question, we really focus on the work itself. But were you afraid in any moment about, taking into account that it's a global pandemic?
What I of course noticed was that all characters that you have in the world respond to this danger and to fear in another way. And I did not feel much fear in daytime, but I had about, I think, 3 nights that I woke up sweating, being sure that I was very ill.
That's what I wanted to hear. This sort of
but I wasn't.
Forced paranoia.
Sorry, I'm still here. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. My second question.
Yeah.
Even though you certainly are not an oracle, you are a scholar, a manager, and a thinker. Hence, I still would like to hear your agony and ecstasy on what you think are the consequences of the global pandemic, in what way could the new decade be different?
Well, when I now look, in the first weeks I thought we should keep this new tempo as a wonderful change. When I now look at the past week, when you see the turmoil and what people revolutionize in a way because they think they are not treated well or they are used as a second-hand person or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that this could be a new courage. It could be a new way to personalize your life and to improve society.
So you think we gained bravery?
I think so. Yes, I think so. And also, well, what we all know now, and that's something that you have to learn in life. But this was certainly a kind of closure and a kind of seizure, is that we are vulnerable.
Yeah.
And if you do not decide to live at this moment and stand for your point, you will miss the boat. You will be
right.
So, yeah, it's not that you have to be with it. You have to decide what you want.
Yes.
That's much more important
right.
than being the first one or the best one or the most bright
loudest
one, etc. I mean,
but being engaged, either or, nice. Yeah. In 2019, Museum Boijmans van Beuningen has officially closed its doors for the coming 7 years, but it hasn't stopped its activities.
No.
However, 7 years is an enormous chunk of time in the formative years of, let's say, our younger generation and your future audience. It is as if parents did not take their children to church on Sundays. Thus, how can we expect them to have faith in art?
Yeah.
Is consuming art a religious experience? Actually, if children are watching this, simply, what is art?
Art is not definable. So art is something which can be very ugly, very special, very open, very much personal. It can be very much offensive. It could be something to get rid of. It could be something to offend to. It could be something to make you think. And art is made by people. And so this is all very nice, but this is all done. I mean, it's an act of God, but art is something that we decide to exist. And we are the people of the world that have a kind of sense of that there would be something left from us, something we thought that is materialized or written or of value, language, a word, a poem, etc.
Right.
So art is in fact a kind of sample of who we are over all centuries that we lived as a tribe on the world. And you can go on with this for hours. I mean, you never stop because art is a free world.
Right.
And it is also a difficult world. It's also a language in itself. It's also it makes you it helps you to escape, but it's also a world that is taken away by people who can afford it, which is not necessary because you could be the one who makes an artwork.
Right.
Artwork. It's in all of us, and some people can even live from it.
Small sub-question to that. Since you are a museum, obviously art is your commodity, not in a commercial sense, but your concern. Yet art has many forms. As you said, it's everything man-made in some sense that we find important. Yet you make certain choices about it. And I'm curious, as a museum and with your curators, how do you make those choices? Because that's quite a responsibility also for the future to come, that you have defined something to be art and something. You don't collect music. You don't collect computer games like MoMA. You make specific choices about what art is for you. So that's why I wanted to dig a little bit deeper in what is in at your work at the museum considered, something that you catch as a fisherman. These are the fish we're catching.
Yeah. So we look over 7 centuries, so we have quite a big range of mostly Western art, which is just a part of the world. We do not search for certain techniques, and there's nothing that we would avoid to collect, nothing.
Okay.
I mean, everything could be part of an artwork, which makes it, of course, a problem to conserve it and to keep it in a good condition for a long time. And in fact, making choices has a lot to do with comparison. And so you know what happens, it's about information.
Okay.
And you compare. And then you have certain characteristics, like, is it done well? Is it bad taste? Is it good taste? There's a good bad taste and bad good taste. So you have to be aware of what the personal quality is that comes into an art piece or an artwork.
How much in this is instinct and how much of that is so analytical as you described?
In the end, you decide with your intuition.
Okay.
So it's always you analyze with a team. You have proposals. You have impressions. You go through the art world. You read and you know where people come from. You know what the context is when what was made. But in the end, you recognize what you know.
Right.
And you try to find what you do not know. And that's something which is wonderful. I mean,
it's exciting. Yeah.
It's very exciting, and it gives some people chances, like me, that you would like to present to all people. But it's wonderful to find what you did not know that you were searching. It's wonderful. I mean, be a museum director.
It's almost like being an explorer. I mean, you have a destination, but it's not everybody who's. There's a famous saying: not everybody who is wandering is lost.
No.
In 1997, a long time ago, Martin Margiela, or Mason Martin Margiela, has mounted his first solo museum exhibition at your museum. He placed dresses from his collection outside of the glass pavilion and exposed them to weather conditions. The fabrics were taken over by molds and they created new patterns. I have seen only the photos from that show, but it made an impact on me that time.
Yeah.
It was very powerful, raw, and it started for me the process of thinking about nature as a possible vehicle in the process of creation. Do you, in the museum, look at trends and react to them? Do you feel you have also a responsibility in promotion of certain ideas? Think of environmental issues or civil rights, etc. Or you are a museum that merely mirrors the state of the world we live in today?
I think that we are more a mirror to the world, but we know what is going on. It's Oiko Enwezor made a very interesting series of shows in München, where he was taking all over the world certain cuts in time. So he went to Addis Ababa and he was looking in 1944 what happened in the art at the moment that Hiroshima exploded. And he went to many cities to see what happened when John F. Kennedy was killed. It were the big moments like the pandemic in the world that all people should have noticed. And what was very interesting in his show was that you could see in all these oeuvres, all these artists, how they responded to the feeling that the world was experiencing at that moment. So I think that some things can be very inclusive and very open, and you can taste them in many ways. So I think that art could be a world in itself, but there's no artist in the world that does not respond to daily life, to environment, to personal feelings, etc. So it's not this or that. It's the combination, the synthesis of the two that makes art interesting. Art is organic.
all the time, or at?
Even if you deny it, you pose something which makes the personality of an artwork more clear.
In that sense, we're talking about art in general, or as an artwork as an object. I mean, if I look at Guernica, is it organic? I mean, it's quite fixed.
I think Guernica is emotion. It's a personal emotion in a period of time that has been unbelievably important. But you can see that Picasso was at his best. I mean, Picasso was always at his best, but in this field
he's not listening, so it's okay.
He was unbelievable. But let's talk about Dali. We have Dali has been terrible all his life, but the things that he made during the Spanish Civil War are unbelievable. You feel them very strongly, and they are harsh, and you feel that he was uncomfortable, but he was at his best as an artist.
All right.
And so artists always are like fish in a pond. They have to be fluid with the circumstances that they are in.
So you are a fisherman.
No, but I'm born with the sign of a fish. So that's
good.
And I like fish a lot.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite
we're
animals.
Serving fish afterwards.
Is it? Oh, that's a surprise.
My next question. What does the future hold for art as a material experience in a society that is becoming furthermore digitalized and still, unfortunately, still fast consuming?
Now, an artwork is unbelievably important because of the material that it's made from. And so the conceptual art, thinking about things, is very important too and will always continue. But a museum is in the end about artifacts that stay behind when the author has passed away. And you can always interpret a materialized artwork again and again. And so it comes to life in all generations. And that's what a museum is doing. So if a museum exists 100 years, it has to renew its perception 7 times. 7 times 14, it's more or less. Then you have 2 years to rehab. But that's what a museum is doing.
Right.
So it's not something that talks for itself. To talk about what the eternal or new, for the generation, new value is of things that were left behind. And I think it works best if something is there to look after, or to look at.
Physicality is important. I mean, you're sitting on a physical object.
That's still a little cold. Is that because of the...
I think it's the environment.
Okay.
It's a warm atmosphere. The reason I'm asking because, for example, I am more or less that fish that absorbs what's going on around it. And I see that digital world as a medium can and is influencing art in general. You see that a lot of the consumption of art is being done through digital media. Less and less people go to museums. They screen, if they like it, through Facebook, Instagram, less through invitations. And therefore, a lot of art already is more successful if it's successful in digital media. You see that a lot of artworks now subconsciously go towards that rather than a physical experience because they know that if they don't succeed in being digitally successful, they will not be physically successful. And so there is this part that if you see already in museum collections that digital art informs physical art so much that you can see it has been made for digital consumption more than it has been made for physical, and that was just an excuse.
Yeah, you know, it is very interesting, and to my opinion, digital art is just a new species in the art world. So people started to make drawings with a pencil, and people started to carve.
And that was a new media then.
That were all new media, and the art world can swallow all new media that will be invented, also digital. And I think that digital is very interesting because it's art in communication, and so you can communicate with 2 billion people about an artwork, which is unbelievable because you do not have to ship it, it's just there and you can open it and you see it.
Right.
But in the end, it's about the real thing. It's not the Internet of Things, it's the things that you can touch, that you can feel, that are cold and that are heavy, that you want to have with you. It's a physical thing, art. And so digital art is unbelievably important, but it's also not completely as intelligent as an artwork.
I have a strange relationship with digital media, and I give you a good example. I love some of my favorite artworks. I've never seen in my life. I've only consumed them through digital replicas on the screen.
Yeah.
There are some works of Michelangelo I think are great, and I haven't yet seen them physically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a really strange world we live in, that more and more we will believe the digital is the real.
Yeah.
And you don't need a museum for that.
Well, I don't know. So what we now see is this end of tourism, and maybe for a short while, maybe permanently. But why do you think that all these people went to travel? They were on internet and they thought, I want to
feel it.
I want to see it, and I want to be in this experience. And I mean, it's hopeless. In the Mona Lisa was not in the Leonardo show because it needed a space where 5,000 people can look at it at the same time.
Yeah.
So Leonardo was too important for its own exhibition.
Right.
I mean, I know artists that cannot afford their own work, but Leonardo cannot even show his work in his own exhibition because he's so popular.
Yeah.
What's happening? And all these people are very glad that they have seen a glimpse of this work.
Strange phenomenon, this digital experiencing of art.
Yeah. So we all become pilgrims. We have to be
right.
It's experience.
Yeah.
You should have been there. But if you go one church next block, you can have a better experience, but something which is just for your individual well-being.
Yeah.
But you have to learn this, and you have to be brave to be individual in the way you look at things, in the way you respond to things, and you have to develop your taste too. And that's very nice about looking at things. You see more and more.
Yes.
So it improves, and your taste starts to change. It's getting better and lower.
Yeah. But then, I mean, I see it also on my own growth of taste, let's call it, can be counterproductive, that I don't enjoy things the same way I enjoy them when I didn't know anything.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, I will ask you something about
this. But that is a wonderful trip, because you will always love your first artworks that you saw and that were of importance for you. But you start to look at things that you would never believe that would become important to you. And that is a wonderful road trip that you should really try to develop. Yeah. And you don't have to go to the moon to see special things.
Oh yeah, that's true. Really, it's around the corner here. Yeah. Since the lockdown, there were not many opportunities to see exhibitions and physically be confronted with art. We had to supply the digital experiences with memories of past, visceral experiences. My question is then, what was the last artwork you have seen that took your breath away?
Actually, it was Dali.
Okay.
Sorry if it is.
The worst artist?
Yeah, the worst artist ever. But in the museum collection, we have 4 of his pieces from this Civil War period. And we opened the day that it was allowed by Mr. Rutte a show in a museum in Amstelveen, the Cobra Museum, with the 45 best pieces of the surreal collection of the Boymans. And it was in an enormous space, so people even not touching each other can look at things very soberly and very individual. And they struck me really, because they had their own wall. They were not so in the museum in the Boijmans.
Yeah.
We tend to try to 2,000, 3,000, 3,500 artworks in one museum, and the more we grow, the more we
Cramp.
Yes, and here they had a space as big as this lawn for themselves, and then another one, and then a Magritte, and there was a Delvaux, and it was marvelous,
Suddenly you saw
marvelous, and there were just 2 or 3 visitors, and that's still the case. So if you would like to experience surrealism, you should go to Amstelveen.
But then isn't it poignant to say that it's also a surreal experience in a surreal show?
Absolutely, absolutely. In its own architecture, which looks like a pizzeria, which is completely ugly, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That was very much a relief too.
But I think Ali would like Dali would like it.
You didn't hear it.
Okay.
It's a strange association. Dali passed away, okay. Yeah.
Okay, another question. I was always interested in history in general. My mom is a historian. And I was also interested in what are the lessons we can learn from it. You are yourself an expert on the style movement. And I want to take this opportunity to ask you, what can we learn from the style that we could apply today in our everyday life? In what way could the movement be considered timeless today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very interesting question, because the works of the style look quite limited, as if they are made in a kind of set of rules, and they are. Because it's non-figurative, it's limited to certain colors. It has to do with ideas that have to do with life, so daily life. The synthesis of art and life was what these artists were looking for. The modernism is in fact a Gesamtkunstwerk to live in. So what happens in the style, which is very interesting, is that each of these artists knew about the rules. So you have straight corners, you have 3 colors, you have space, you have things to live in. And the moment that they started to concentrate on these rules, they were each doing individual works that you can really very easily recognize from what the other person did. They had this set of rules, and none of them was alike the other. So what it learns to us is that if you would like to concentrate and you work something out, start with a movement, start with a set of rules, and try to be principle. And then you see...
And then you blossom.
And then the differences become so important that all details matter.
Lovely.
It's wonderful.
It's almost like, I don't want to compare it to religion, but I mean, you have a set of commandments, yet we all execute, each live these 10 commandments with a different flavor. We are still all individuals, yet there's a fixed set of rules given to us.
Yeah. And these rules, they do not come from
No.
They are your rules. So you can make your own rules, and then you can live with them, with a group, and you can see what happens to you. And that's interesting, because it will never be alike, and it will never be predictable. It will never be repeatable.
Yeah.
It's a miracle.
I like to think of, I mean, I would like to hear more experts say what can their field of expertise give tools to an everyday life and how to solve problems, live a better life, because I mean that's the purpose of also art itself, to make life more bearable. In that sense.
And make yourself independent as a person.
Yes.
So you can be any person, but decide what it should be and how to respond to the things that happen to you.
You are very consistent in your, because you also said the individual
Sorry,
just making
am
a
I
choice.
repeating myself already?
No,
in
no,
half
no.
an
But I mean,
hour?
the first question was very similar to the answer was like, okay, you have
Okay.
to engage. There's no good or wrong
Yeah,
answer. The last question. Sorry, it's the last question. During the bus chair conversations, amongst other things, I want to steer the attention to the relationship of art and nature and contemplation. Between 2010 and 2014, you have explored possibilities of large-scale, site-specific installations at the Submarine Dwarf, which I found very exciting and refreshing myself. In contrast to the industrial spaces, have you as a museum considered exploring natural sites, specific landscape as an extension of the museum program? And here I'm thinking the first image that comes to my mind is the Gibbs Farm in New Zealand, with sort of this generous natural landscape that you don't even know you are in an art foundation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like very much the example that you are now mentioning, but we did not consider this because this area, this part of the country, is so over-cultural, and so there's nothing here that comes from nature. It's all used for industry, for making a living, for transport, for growing ducks, etc. And we don't have that kind of landscape in the Netherlands at all. I mean, maybe a very small part of the woods in the middle part are over 120 years, but that's about it. And it all washes away with water, etc. So if you do this, you should go to the Nevada, or you should go to the middle of Spain.
Right.
And then that's where your competition is worthwhile. But this is all construction.
Yeah.
I mean, this is in fact, this is made up. This is a decorum.
Yes, it is very much.
So if your feeling is that your artwork should compete with nature, go to nature and do not work in such a
limited and artificial.
in a film set. We are living in a film set.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The last part of this in the conversation is this fire questions that I give to every guest. It's a series of 5 questions, either or, and you have to answer without thinking immediately.
Is it yes or no?
It's banana or apple.
Okay.
Kind of
Banana.
thing.
Banana.
So you ready?
Yes.
Bauhaus or the style?
The style.
Bach or Mozart?
Bach.
Urban or rural?
Rural. Yeah.
Interesting. Hardcover or soft cover?
Hardcover.
Breakfast or dinner?
Breakfast.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sjarel X. I love this interview. It was very entertaining. As a token of my appreciation for you accepting the invitation, I would like to give you a small gift as a memory. So thank you very much.
We cannot shake hands, I think. Thank
no,
you so
no,
much.
this is the closest we can get. And,
beautiful. It's
it's the replica of what you're sitting on.
Beautiful. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Thank you very much.